Hi there, Smart Driver, talking to you today about speeding, and speeders. Particularly, we're going to talk about the issue of speeding cameras. There is no doubt that traffic crashes are dangerous. They cause a lot of injuries. They cause a lot of deaths. And I've talked about these statistics previously in the United States of America. And the United States of America, oddly enough, does not have a good traffic safety record. The United States of America ranks pretty low in terms of traffic safety. There are countries in the world that have way better traffic safety ratings than the United States of America. In the United States of America, more people die in traffic crashes every 18 months than all the soldiers sent to war during the Vietnam crisis between 1963 and 1975. So in a 12-year war, there were fewer people killed than all of the people on the roadways in the United States of America in an 18-month period. Good stuff to have a look at. Defensive driving for new drivers. Check out the podcast. The link will be down in the description there. And as well, unexpected events on a driver's test that could potentially fail you. Those things that could pop up because driving is always changing. There could be a traffic crash, could be a sewer main that breaks, and then there's construction. The road would be flooded. They'll have to take you down another direction. Garbage trucks along the route and those types of things. These are all chance events that potentially could cause you to mess up your driver's test. So have a look at that video and be completely prepared on the day that you go in for your driver's test. Legally speeding, this is Sean. He's over on Twitter. He is a retired police officer in Ontario, and somebody asked him if you could legally drive 5 to 10 kilometers an hour over the posted speed limit. So what the person is asking a retired police officer, you need to know where the question is being directed at and who is answering the question, because police officers had a duty of carrying out black letter law, right? What is the law that's written in the book? This is the law. There is discretion on the part of police officers and those types of things, but the question is very specific in terms of, can you legally drive with traffic flow? The answer is no. Exactly what Sean said in his response to this comment. You cannot legally drive over the posted speed limit because it is the law that this is the posted speed limit. That's how fast you have to drive. Now, he does go on to say in the comment and in the response that if you do drive and keep up with traffic flow, which is going to be 5 to 10 kilometers an hour over the posted speed limit, or you're in the United States of America and you're driving 5 to 7 miles an hour over the posted speed limit and keeping up with traffic flow, as long as you're not moving in erratically through the massive traffic that's on the roadway, it's unlikely that you're ever going to get pulled over. Police are not looking for the people that are keeping up with traffic flow and being predictable on the roadways. They're looking for the speeders that are driving excessively faster than the traffic that is on the roadway. That's who they're looking for. They're looking for the people that are doing 20, 30, 40 miles an hour more than the posted speed limit. They're looking for the people in Canada who are driving 30, 40, 50 kilometers an hour above the posted speed limit. Those are the people that they're looking for. The best kept secret in traffic safety is that throughout time, we have not reduced the number of traffic crashes. And we can't really prove this. I cannot prove this statement, but I know it in my heart of hearts. We have not reduced the number of traffic crashes that happen on our roadways. We have not reduced the number of injuries, but we can't prove that because there are so many people involved in recording traffic crashes that happen on our roadways. Not to mention the number of people who don't report crashes. They bang into somebody on the roadway and they get out, they look at the car and there isn't any damage. They exchange information and the person takes it to an auto body shop and they say, oh, it's going to be $500 to fix, and the person shoots them $500 and it's never reported. Police are never called. The other aspect of this is in many crashes, police never attend the crash scene. You have to, if there's less than $5,000 worth of damage, which is basically nothing on a new car now, what happens is you take the other party's information and the next day you report to a crash reporting center and have authorities take note of the damage that was done to your vehicle and you file an insurance claim. So police are never involved and the crash is never reported, or it's not written down and documented and collated and that information is never anywhere. So we cannot prove this information. And I'm not the only one saying this. However, when there is a death, that is documented. We have a body. We now have something concrete that we can hang on to. So traffic fatalities can be measured, and they are collated and calculated and put into databases, and we can track that information. And it's easy to see, if you look at this kinetic energy chart, why increased speeds cause increased numbers of fatalities, because when you increase speed in a vehicle, the amount of energy in the vehicle increases exponentially. If you go from 20 kilometers an hour and you have X number of energy in the vehicle, and you go to 100 kilometers an hour, which is 5 times the speed has increased 5 times, but the amount of energy in the vehicle has increased by 25 times. So the likelihood of being killed in that crash increases exponentially. The seatbelts aren't going to save you. The airbags aren't going to save you. You are going to die in that crash because the speed is so high and there is so much energy in that vehicle. Same thing with reducing speed limits within cities. If you strike a pedestrian at 70 kilometers an hour, 40 miles an hour with a car, the chances of that person surviving that crash are less than 20%. However, if you reduce speed limits to 25 miles an hour, 40 kilometers an hour, now the chances of that person surviving that crash increased 80%. 80% chance that they will survive that crash. This is why we're reducing urban speeds, because pedestrians are more likely to survive those crashes within the cities. So it's easy to point the finger at speed and say speed kills people. Yes, it does, because the energy in the vehicle increases exponentially. So it's easy to say that. In addition to that, it's easy to document that case because police attend the scene, ambulances, the information is recorded. Oftentimes there are lawyers involved, there's lawsuits, there's insurance companies. All that information is now recorded, and it's easy to track and easy to document and easy to write traffic safety profiles about those crashes. Definitions of speeding: faster than the posted speed limit, driving faster than the traffic flow, which I said in Canada is 10 kilometers above the posted speed limit. In the United States is 5 miles an hour above the posted speed limit. Driving faster than me. In the wintertime, you're driving all nice and namby-pamby and safe on the roadways because it's snowing, and then somebody goes screaming past you and you're like, oh my God, they're speeding, because they're driving faster than you. Driving faster than conditions of the roadway. And the note there at the bottom, the statistic, the National Highway Traffic Safety Association in the United States said that in 2016 and 20 years up to that point in 2016, 1/3, 30% of all traffic crash deaths were related to speed, that people were speeding. But they never define what speeding is, or when they say that people are speeding and it caused a traffic fatality. Speeding has been an issue since horses were ridden on roadways, and the transition from horses to motorized traffic beginning of the 20th century forever changed policing, forever changed laws, because people were driving fast and furious on the roadways. And of course, by the end of the 1920s, courts were so clogged up with speeding and traffic tickets that they had to increase police powers. And this is what we're going to talk about in terms of speed cameras after the presentation here, that speed cameras are not only increasing the powers of police, they're also increasing the powers of the state, because the police are now not in that equation of you being policed for speeding. It's simply an autonomous, nondescript, amorphous thing out there that is policing speeding and sending you a ticket in the mail. And usually the companies that are implementing the speed cameras are being outsourced to private industry. And this is the issue that people are having with speed cameras. It's not that speed cameras are being put in place, because most people, if you ask them, you say, are speed cameras a good thing? Most people would say, yeah, the speed cameras are a good thing, but it's the problem that it's private industry that's putting in place speed cameras. They're getting a cut, and then they're giving the rest of the money to the government, to the corporation, whether it's the municipality, whether it's the provincial government, the state government, or it's the federal government, whoever it is. But usually it's the state government, because this is all under the Highway Traffic Act. Forever changed our rural and urban landscapes and automotive safety and driving culture. And we talked about driving culture in terms of Google, policing, getting caught for speeding tickets. It's more important that you're on time for the meeting than it is that you are speeding. That's not going to be frowned upon if you're speeding to get to a meeting on time. Case study: Australia, rigid and enforced speed limits, and they do have speed cameras. But if you look at their traffic safety record in terms of the number of traffic deaths in Australia, nobody looks at Australia and says, oh my God, look how much that they have reduced traffic fatalities in the country of Australia. But I will tell you from driving and living in Australia that very few people in Australia exceed the posted speed limit because of the widespread use of speed cameras in that country. The Autobahn, and this is one of the things that Turf was talking about, that in fact there are traffic fatalities on the Autobahn. Of course there's traffic fatalities on the Autobahn. You can't drive 200 kilometers an hour and have a crash and expect to survive that. Yes, you are going to have traffic fatalities on the Autobahn, and as people have pointed out over the years when I've talked about the Autobahn, there are large sections of the Autobahn that there are speed limits on the Autobahn. There are very few sections that don't have speed limits on it. But the one thing that Turf overlooks in terms of their biased approach to speed and speeding and traffic fatalities is Germany has one of the best traffic safety records of any industrialized country in the world. They're right up there with Sweden and Finland, Norway, other countries in the world that have very high safety rating records. Much better than Canada, much better than the United States. Germany is one of the top countries in the world, but they point out to the Autobahn and go, oh my God, that's not safe. It's not true. Germany as a whole has a really good traffic safety record. The Trans-Canada BC, I talked about that, and the email from Turf says, oh, they rolled back their speed limits. They didn't roll back the speed limits, and anybody who's been on the Trans-Canada Highway and it's 120 kilometers an hour, there's no reason that you can't do 120 kilometers an hour on that freeway. It's a freeway for the most part. Speed differentials. This is where you will get into trouble, and you can look at any truck driving forum on speed limiters. Companies limit the speeds of their trucks for two reasons. The first reason is fuel economy. First and foremost, they limit the top speed of their truck at 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, 65 miles an hour, 105 kilometers an hour. And trucking companies have been doing this since the 1990s. Since electronic fuel injected diesel engines were implemented in big trucks in the 1990s. I have driven very few trucks in my career that were not speed limited. Most of them were. And the second reason is simply for issues of safety, because it doesn't look good when you've got a moving billboard going up and down the freeway that's doing 150 kilometers an hour. Most of the people who are making noise about speed limited tractor trailers are brokers, owner-operators, people that own their own trucks. Most of the information that they put out there is not true at all. I never had an issue with driving a speed limited truck. Right? They're slow anyway. It's not like you're going to accelerate out of an emergency situation with a fully loaded tractor trailer. It's just never going to happen. However, they are correct in terms of speed differentials, and this is where you get into trouble. And this is where people that are racing through traffic and weaving in and out of traffic and whatnot, this is why they get into trouble, because the speed differential between their vehicle and other vehicles on the roadway. Talking about space and place, and we separating traffic in terms of two ways. We separate it physically with concrete barriers down the middle of the roadway is probably the most prominent way that we separate traffic. And then we separate it in terms of traffic lights at intersections and whatnot. And we know that intersections are dangerous because more than 40% of crashes happen at intersections. But it's not just speed and speed differentials that cause so many traffic crashes at intersections. It's also the place that we're most likely to encounter vulnerable road users. And in the world, 25% traffic fatalities are vulnerable road users. Kids on e-scooters, bicycles, motorcycle riders, pedestrians. This is the place at intersections where you're most likely to encounter vulnerable road users, and you're going to get into this speed differential that leads to traffic crashes at intersections. So speed differentials, this is the other, the difference between a fixed object and your vehicle, a fixed object that isn't going anywhere. For example, a tree that you run into. The tree isn't moving. It's going 0 miles per hour, whereas your vehicle is doing 60 miles an hour. There's a big speed differential there. And this is what I talk about in terms of space management as the biggest tool in your defensive driving toolbox, that if you're not near anything, it's less likely that you're going to hit something. Policing speeding, speed cameras, the culture of driving, that even Google is telling you where speed traps are, where police are along the roadways. We have dash cams now. Most of the high-end dash cams are going to tell you where the red light cameras are. Most of the high-end dash cams are going to tell you that there is a speed camera along the route. Radar detectors are only illegal in 2 states in the United States. So therefore, we have a culture where it's more frowned upon that we actually got caught for speeding than it is the fact that we actually got a speeding ticket. Let me just repeat that. It's more embarrassing that we got caught for speeding because we did something wrong and we were dumb and we didn't pay attention to all the warnings that there was potentially that we were going to get a speeding ticket. And also we have cell phones now, right? We're driving along the roadway and we see cops up ahead on, pulling people over for speeding and whatnot. We call our friend. We say, oh, they're set up here, right? And then the next thing you know, everybody knows. Or how many times have we seen the vehicle coming the other way and they're flashing their lights telling you that there are cops up the road? It happens all the time. It is more embarrassing that you did get done in for speeding. Speed cameras, and as I said, you run your GPS, Google will give you a warning where they are along the roadways and those types of things. The entire culture in which we live and everything in Hollywood films and those types of things tell us that it is cool to speed, and this is why people drive pickup trucks. This is why people ride motorcycles. They love the thrill of speed. Social driving, speeding up at yellow lights, being late for an appointment. Truck drivers are paid piecemeal. Delivery people are paid piecemeal. They're paid for the number of packages. So you deliver 25 packages over the course of the day and you're paid X number of dollars. You deliver 50 packages over the course of the day, you're paid exponentially more. So you're in a hurry to drive fast and deliver those packages and not stopping at stop signs. This is all part and parcel and ties into social driving and the pressures for you to actually speed when you're driving. Space management, as I said, if you're not near anything, it's less likely that you're going to hit something. In addition to that, it is not speed that causes crashes and traffic fatalities. It is the mismanagement of speed and space. And interestingly enough, most of the traffic crashes that we think is two cars running into each other in a traffic crash that causes a fatality. Almost half of traffic crashes that result in fatalities are single vehicle collisions. And they're more likely to happen at night. Because people fall asleep, they're inebriated, they've been drinking, they've been taking drugs, and they're driving a car and they drive up the roadway, they drive into a tree, they drive into a hydro pole, those types of things, and it causes fatalities. Be proactive, be predictable. You're too close to other road users on the roadway and fixed objects. Space management, it is your biggest tool in your defensive driving toolbox that is going to keep you safe. It's not speed that kills people. Speed leads to fatalities, but it isn't the cause of the crash. The cause of the crash was way back here in something that you did wrong and you were too close to other cars on the roadway. You weren't in control. You were inebriated in some way. You were distracted in some way or doing something else that was goofy on the roadway that you shouldn't be doing. And essentially, it boils down to the last definition of speeding. You were driving too fast for conditions of the roadway. Radar detectors. We had this conversation about radar detectors. I had this with one of the smart drivers a couple of years ago. I didn't really know anything about radar detectors, or there is the euphemistically called as hound dogs in the United States of America. And then I had to look into it and was corrected on this, that they are not illegal in the United States of America. You can have a radar detector. However, if you do get pulled over for speeding and you do have a radar detector in your vehicle in the United States, you're probably going to get a speeding ticket because police are going to deem you a professional speeder. Good luck in your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. GG, Port Coquitlam, people don't obey posted limits and also they drive as they like. Yes, they do. And as I said, this is going to get worse, and the number of traffic fatalities amongst vulnerable road users on our roadways is simply going to increase. And the reason it's going to increase is due to the electric vehicles on our roadways, the scooters, the bicycles, people doing all kinds of crazy things, not wearing helmets. How many people riding an e-scooter do you see wearing helmets? And I hate to tell the, urban planners and engineers and all the other people that are responsible for slamming in bicycle lanes that this is simply going to increase the number of traffic fatalities on our roadways. It's not going to increase safety for people that are riding bicycles and e-scooters and whatnot. Elevator fan, if you speed throughout the duration of your driver's test, you will fail. Elevator fan, you're absolutely right. For the purposes of a driver's test, you have to drive the posted speed limit, and you are going to be the slowest vehicle on the roadway. And just another tip in keeping with what Elevator fan is saying, because you're the slowest vehicle on the roadway, because you're driving the posted speed limit, you need to stay in that right-hand lane. And if you make a left turn on a multi-lane road, you need to move back over to the right lane after turning left, and the examiner will not tell you this. Know that for the purposes of driving. And if you're unsure of where you're going to be making left-hand turns at major intersections in and around the test center where you're going to be taking your test, and you're not taking driving lessons, then book one driving lesson with a driving instructor. I know that most of you are going to be taking driving lessons, but it is still incredibly valuable, because if you haven't taken driving lessons and you take one driving lesson with an instructor, he or she will take you on the test route in and around the test center. They will show you where the examiner will get you to do the slow speed maneuvers, and they will give you feedback on the skills that you need to improve to pass your driver's test first time. So if you're not taking driving lessons with an instructor, book one lesson and go out with an instructor. GG, Vancouver drivers are always road raging. Who knows why? Always rush hour traffic make it even worse. Yes. Space management, the tool in your toolbox that you want to keep in place all the time. 2 to 4 second following distance. If you use that, you're going to reduce your chances of having a road rage incident, because you're not near anybody. And, you know, I can't say this, you didn't hear me say this, but keep up with traffic flow, because it makes you more predictable on the roadways. If you were doing the posted speed limit out after you get your driver's license, I can tell you right now, you're going to encourage the wrath of other people, because they're going to tailgate you, telling that you are going too slow on the roadways. Begin to understand the actions of other people on the roadways. They're communicating with you, whether they want to or not. If they're tailgating you, most of the time they're telling you that you are going too slow and they want to get around you and get in front of you. And in addition to that, just keep in mind that most people believe and would agree with the statement, I am a good driver. It's the other person that has to change. It's not me. Even though what they're doing is potentially dangerous on the roadways. Evan, an instant in which you can exceed the posted speed limit is getting out of the way of an unpredictable road user. Yes, Evan, that is correct, but not really. It's not something, you know, if the police pulled you over for speeding and you said, well, I was getting away from that road user back there that was being a dummy, the police are probably not going to accept that excuse, unless, I mean, you've got something on dash cam or something like that. But I mean, again, most people have a dash cam in their vehicles now, so they can pull up what's going on there. Speeding. What is the definition of speeding that you are using? Because it's not a hard and fast rule of posted speed limits, right? If we're going with the black letter law, then it's a posted speed limit. But flow of traffic, we know that flow of traffic, and if you look at any driver's handbook and you read carefully the text in the driver's handbook, it will mention traffic flow and the speed of traffic flow along highways. It's not overt, it's not blatant. You have to look at it pretty hard, but it does talk about traffic flow in driver's handbook. So yeah, as I said, in the United States, it varies state by state. So look up your state, go over to the frequently asked questions on the Smart Drive Test website and look up your state and look at the speed limits there. And again, practice in and around the test center where you're going to be taking your test. That way you can figure out all these signs and know what the signs are and how fast you can drive on different routes in and around the test center, and you won't be caught out by, oh, well, how fast am I supposed to be going here, right? Do that and be successful on your driver's test first time. GG, I still try to figure out what's the difference between kilometers and miles. Yeah, it's pretty easy, GG. 30 miles an hour is 50 kilometers an hour, 40 miles per hour is 70 kilometers an hour, and 80 is 50, 100 is 60. Okay, it's that simple in terms of miles per hour to kilometers per hour. I try and do both to help people out because we have both Canadian and American drivers here on the channel. It's interesting because 100 kilometers an hour psychologically when I'm driving feels shorter than 60 miles if I'm driving in the States and I'm going 60 miles. 60 miles feels farther than 100 kilometers, which is weird because 100 kilometers is a bigger number. 100 is bigger than 60, but it feels longer when you're driving to cover 60 miles. Yeah, I always find that kind of an interesting little psychological mind trick when you're driving in the States as opposed to driving in Canada. And it also might have something to do with the roads in the United States because, you know, in the United States you can drive on interstate for miles and miles and miles and miles and never come off the interstate, never come off cruise, you know, if everything goes well for sure. Whereas in Canada, especially here in Western Canada where I live, it's, 4-lane road, 2-lane road, passing lane, 4-lane, 2-lane. It's a hodgepodge of roadways in terms of the Trans-Canada. It's not an interstate or a continuous freeway for any length of time here, which is always a bit of a challenge. And then, of course, driving in the mountains. You're up the hill and down the hill and around the corner and around the corner and down the hill and up the hill. So driving in the mountains is definitely challenging for sure. Speeding, the culture of speeding, traffic fatalities, speed cameras, it is all political. Statistics, yes, speeding causes traffic deaths, but it is not as simple as looking at traffic safety and just looking at traffic deaths. It's a much, much more complicated topic that can have its own book. So we talked about it, we touched the surface, give you some insights into that, and hope you got some good information out of that and the culture of speeding and how it's viewed in our society. Have a great night, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. All the best. Bye now.